Officer mocks black woman at market, unknowing she was the colonel's mother. Dorothy Johnson was walking through the Oakland open-air market, holding her small shopping basket, when she felt the scornful gaze of the young police officer. At 62, she was already accustomed to this type of situation, but she never imagined that moment would change everything in her life. Officer Kevin Wilson pointed his finger at her with a mocking smile on his lips, drawing the attention of everyone around. "Hey, you there from the shack?" shouted Kevin, making some vendors stop what they were doing. "Are you going to pay for that kale, or what are you waiting for?" Dorothy stopped and looked at the young man no older than 25. Her hand tightened on the basket handle while she felt her chest tighten. She had just picked 3 kale leaves from old Jerry's stall, who always let her choose the best ones. "Young man, I already paid old Jerry," she replied with a calm but firm voice. "Oh yeah, and where's the receipt?" Kevin stepped closer, puffing out his chest in his blue uniform. "People like you always have an excuse." Silence took over that part of the market. Dorothy felt tears burning her eyes, but didn't let any fall. She had been through similar situations her entire life, from childhood in rural Louisiana to these days in New York City. But something about that moment hurt differently. Old Jerry, a white-haired man who had been selling vegetables there for over 30 years, approached shaking his head. "Kevin, Miss Dorothy already paid. She's been a customer here for years, boy." "And I'm supposed to believe your word?" Kevin laughed loudly, making some onlookers gather. "These people always protect each other." Dorothy closed her eyes for a second. At that moment, she remembered the son she hadn't seen in almost 2 years. Michael always said she should be proud of who he had become. But how could she be proud when situations like this still happened every day? "Look here, young man," she said, taking money from her old leather purse. "I'll pay again, just so you stop making this scene." "Now we're talking," Kevin clapped ironically. "Knew you had money hidden there." It was at that moment that a deep, familiar voice cut through the air like a blade. "What's the problem here?" Dorothy turned slowly and her eyes met Michael's. Her son was there, imposing in his military uniform, medals shining on his chest, and the most serious look she had ever seen on his face. Kevin, who had his back to Michael, kept talking without realizing who had arrived. "No problem, colleague, just doing my job, making sure this little person here doesn't leave without paying." "This little person." Michael's voice came out lower, more dangerous. Something in the tone made Kevin turn around. When he saw the insignias on Michael's uniform, his expression changed completely. His legs seemed to weaken and his face turned pale. "Colonel, I didn't know you were... Do you know who this woman you were humiliating is?" Michael took a step forward, and Kevin took one back. Dorothy watched everything in silence, her heart beating so hard it seemed it would leap from her chest. It had been so long since she had seen Michael up close. He was thinner, with some expression lines that weren't there last time. His hair had grey strands at the temples. "Colonel, I can explain." Kevin began to stammer. "This woman is my mother," said Michael, and the words echoed throughout the market. The silence that followed was deafening. Kevin looked like he would faint at any moment. Old Jerry smiled discreetly, and some other vendors began whispering among themselves. Your mother?" Kevin could barely form the words. Dorothy felt a mix of emotions she didn't know how to process. Pride, sadness, relief, hurt, all at once, creating a whirlwind in her chest that left her speechless. "Michael," she finally whispered. He looked at her, and for a second the military man disappeared, and she saw again the boy who used to run around the house asking to be held when he had nightmares. "Mom," he said, and his voice came out softer. Kevin remained still as a statue, sweating cold and not knowing what to do. The situation was completely slipping out of his control. "Colonel, I didn't know. I never imagined," he tried to explain. "Didn't know what?" Michael hardened his voice again. "That she was my mother? Or that you should treat everyone with respect?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Kevin opened and closed his mouth several times, like a fish out of water. Dorothy watched her son handle the situation, and felt a mix of pride and sadness. Pride for the person he had become, sadness for the distance between them. When was the last time they really talked? When was the last time she hugged him? "Michael, you don't have to—" She began to speak. "Yes, I do, Mum." He interrupted her, but his tone was gentle. "Yes, I do." Old Jerry approached Dorothy and lightly touched her arm. "Miss Dorothy, you never told me your son was a colonel." She smiled sadly. "There are many things I don't tell, old Jerry." The answer carried a weight that only she and Michael fully understood. 2 years of silence, of wounded pride, of unspoken words and stored-up hurts. Kevin finally managed to pull himself together a bit. "Colonel, I apologize. It was never my intention to disrespect your mother. I was just—" "You were what?" Michael took another step toward Kevin. "Doing your job? Is part of your job to humiliate honest ladies at the market?" The situation was becoming too tense. Dorothy could see other people starting to gather, forming a small crowd around them. She never liked being the center of attention, especially not like this. "Michael, let's get out of here," she said, lightly touching her son's arm. He looked at her, and she could see the internal struggle in his eyes. He wanted to protect her, but he also respected what she was asking. "Mum." "But he—" "Let's go," she repeated, more firmly. Michael took a deep breath and nodded. He turned to Kevin one last time. "Officer Wilson, you're coming with me now. We need to talk about procedures and conduct." Kevin nodded quickly, clearly relieved it wasn't worse. "Yes, sir. Of course, sir." Dorothy picked up her basket and started walking. Michael stayed by her side, and for the first time in 2 years, mother and son walked together again. The path to the market exit was silent. Dorothy felt the weight of the curious stares, but also something she hadn't felt in a long time, the protective presence of her son beside her. When they reached the street, Michael stopped. "Mum, I need to deal with this with him first, but after— Can we talk?" Dorothy looked at her son. She saw in him the responsible and fair man he had become, but she also saw the boy who still needed her approval. "Of course, son. You know where to find me." "Yes, I do," he smiled for the first time since he had arrived. "At the same house as always." She nodded and started to walk away. After a few steps, she turned back. "Michael." "Yes, Mom?" "Thank you." He nodded, swallowing the lump that had formed in his throat. "Always, Mum. Always." Dorothy continued walking, but now with a lighter heart. She didn't know what the future held for them, but for the first time in a long time, there was hope. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us, who are just starting out. Now continuing, Michael went back to where Kevin was waiting, clearly nervous. The conversation they were about to have was important, not only to clarify what had happened, but also to ensure situations like this wouldn't repeat. "Let's go to the police station," said Michael. "I need to speak with you and your superior." Kevin nodded and they began walking. During the journey, Michael thought about everything that had occurred. Seeing his mother humiliated in that way had stirred something very deep within him. But more than that, it had awakened a longing he'd been trying to ignore for years. The argument that had driven them apart seemed so small now. Michael remembered every word they'd exchanged that terrible night 2 years ago. He had just been promoted to colonel and hoped his mother would be proud. But when he told her about the ceremony, she only asked if he'd forgotten where he came from. "You're becoming just like them, Michael," she had said, "forgetting your own people." "Mom, I haven't forgotten anything. I just want a better life." "A better life? And am I not good enough to be part of that better life?" The argument escalated until he said the words he regretted the next minute. "If you can't be proud of what I've become, maybe it's better to keep our distance." Since then, they hadn't spoken more than a few words in casual encounters. Dorothy didn't attend the promotion ceremony. Michael didn't go to her birthday. 2 years of wounded pride on both sides. Now, walking through the streets of Oakland with Kevin beside him, Michael realized how foolish he'd been. His mother had never stopped being proud of him. She was just afraid he'd forget his roots, the struggles she went through to raise him alone. They arrived at the police station, and Michael asked to speak with the officer in charge. Kevin waited outside the room, clearly apprehensive. "Colonel Johnson?" Captain Thompson stood up when he saw him. "What an honor to have you here. How can I help you?" "Captain, I need to talk about Officer Wilson. There was an incident today at the market." Michael recounted in detail what he had witnessed, omitting nothing. The captain listened with growing attention and an increasingly serious expression. "Colonel, I can assure you this doesn't reflect the conduct we expect from our men. I'll take appropriate measures." "Captain, I'm not here seeking punishment. I'm here seeking education. This young man needs to understand that his role is to serve and protect all people, regardless of skin color or social class." The captain nodded. "You're right, Colonel. I'll arrange training on conduct and human rights for the entire team." When Michael left the room, Kevin was visibly nervous. Michael called him aside for a private conversation. "Kevin, how old are you?" 24, sir." "Family?" "I'm married, sir. My wife is pregnant with our first child." Michael nodded. He saw in the young officer something he recognized, the pressure of wanting to prove one's worth but going about it the wrong way. "Kevin, let me tell you a story. When I was your age, I also thought I had to be tough to be respected. I thought showing authority meant humiliating others." Kevin listened in silence. "But I learned that real authority comes from respect, not fear. And respect is earned by treating all people with dignity." "Yes, sir." "The lady you humiliated today is the woman who worked as a housekeeper for over 40 years to put me through school, who woke up at 4 every morning to catch the first bus, who slept on the floor so I could have a bed." Kevin lowered his head. "Colonel, I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad. I'm telling you so you understand that every person has a story, has dignity. Your job is to protect these people, not humiliate them." "You're right, Colonel. May I apologize to her?" Michael considered the question. He knew his mother would appreciate the gesture, but he also knew she would feel uncomfortable with more attention. "Not today, Kevin. Today you're going to reflect on what happened. If you really want to apologize, do it by being a better police officer from now on." Kevin nodded eagerly. "Yes, sir, I promise this won't happen again." Michael looked into the young man's eyes and saw sincerity. Everyone deserves a second chance, he thought. When he left the police station, Michael didn't go straight home as he normally would. Instead, he walked through the streets of the neighborhood where he had grown up. How long had it been since he'd done that? How long since he'd paid attention to the simple people he met along the way? He stopped in front of the small house where he had lived with his mother until he graduated from the military academy. The paint on the facade was peeling and the gate needed repair. Why had he never offered to help fix it up? Pride, he realized. The same pride that had kept them apart for 2 years. He took a deep breath and knocked on the door. Dorothy opened with a surprised expression. "Michael? I thought you'd be later." "I took care of everything at the station. May I come in?" She hesitated for a second, then opened the door completely. "Of course, son. This is your home." The house was exactly as he remembered. The same simple but always clean furniture. The same plants in the window. The same lavender scent his mother always used. "Would you like some coffee?" she asked. And Michael noticed her hands were trembling slightly. "Yes, Mom." They sat at the kitchen table, the same one where he had done his homework as a child. The silence was uncomfortable, heavy with everything they hadn't said in the last 2 years. "Mom," Michael began, "about that night." "Michael, you don't need to." "Yes, I do. I said things I shouldn't have said. I was nervous, anxious for you to be proud, and when I felt I wasn't, I reacted poorly." Dorothy stirred her coffee slowly without looking at him. "Son, I've always been proud of you. From the day you were born until today, my fear was never about not being proud of you. My fear was always that you would stop being proud of me." The words hit Michael like a punch in the stomach. He had never thought of it that way. "What do you mean, Mom?" "Michael, you've become an important, respected man. You have important friends. You go to places I don't even know what they're like. I'm just a woman who worked as a housekeeper all my life. I'm afraid that one day you'll look at me and be ashamed." Michael felt his eyes sting. How could his mother think that? "Mom, you're the most important person in my life. Everything I've achieved is because of you." "But you never invite me to anything, Michael. Your promotions, your parties. I hear about things from the neighbors." Michael realized she was right. He had indeed created a separation between his professional life and his personal life, but not out of shame of his mother, out of fear that she would feel out of place. "Mom, I don't invite you because I'm afraid you'll feel uncomfortable. Those people speak differently, have different customs, and you think I don't know how to behave. That's not it. It's that I don't want anyone to treat you badly." Dorothy finally looked into his eyes. "Son, I've endured being humiliated my whole life. By employers, by people on the street, by store clerks who thought I was going to steal something just because I'm black and poor. You think I can't handle a few snobby people at a party?" Michael laughed, despite the tears beginning to form. "You've always been stronger than me, Mom. And you've always been braver than me, son. That's why you've gotten where you are." They were silent for a few minutes, processing the conversation. Michael realized how many misunderstandings had created this chasm between them. "Mom, next week there's a ceremony at the academy. They're giving me a Medal of Honor for merit. Would you like to come with me?" Dorothy smiled for the first time since he had arrived. "I'd love to, son, but I don't have the right clothes for—" "Mum, you're coming with me just as you are, and if anyone doesn't like it, that's their problem." "Michael." "Mum, today I saw how much I still have to learn about honor and dignity, and who better to teach me than the woman who raised me with so much love?" Dorothy stood up and hugged her son. It was a hug that had been missing for 2 years, filled with forgiveness, longing, and love. "I love you, son." "I love you too, Mom. And I'm sorry it took me so long to come back home. You're here now, that's what matters." They spent the rest of the afternoon talking, catching up on 2 years apart. Michael talked about his work, about the challenges of the position he held. Dorothy talked about what had happened in the neighborhood, about the neighbors, about how she had missed him. When the sun began to set, Michael realized he didn't want to leave. "Mom, can I have dinner here tonight?" "Michael, you can always have dinner here. This is your home." While Dorothy prepared dinner, Michael looked around the small kitchen and realized something he had forgotten. This was truly his home. It didn't matter where he lived now. It didn't matter how luxurious his apartment was. Home was where his mother's unconditional love was. During dinner, Michael made a decision. "Mom, how about we fix up the house? We'll paint the walls, replace some things." "Michael, you don't have to." "It's not because I have to. It's because I want to. And besides, I'm going to spend more time here. I've missed your Sunday lunches." Dorothy smiled, and Michael saw in that smile all the happiness he had lost because of foolish pride. "There's always Sunday lunch here, son. Always has been. I know, Mom, I promise I won't miss it anymore." They continued talking late into the night. Michael told stories from the barracks that made Dorothy laugh. She told him funny stories about the neighbors that amused him. It was as if the 2 years of separation had been just a bad nightmare. When Michael finally got up to leave, Dorothy walked him to the door. "Michael?" "Yes, Mom." "Thank you for defending me today. It's been a while since anyone did that. Mom, I'll always defend you, no matter who, no matter when. You're my mother, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud to be the mother of Colonel Michael Johnson." They hugged again at the door. Michael felt that something very important had been fixed between them. "Good night, Mum." "Good night, son. Go with God." Michael walked through the dark streets of the neighborhood with a heart lighter than it had been in years. The incident at the market, as unpleasant as it had been, ended up being the push they needed to reconcile. The next day, Michael woke up thinking about his mother. He had an important meeting in the morning, but he decided to stop by her house before going to work. When he arrived, he found Dorothy sweeping the sidewalk, as she did every morning. "Good morning, Mum." "Michael, what a nice surprise. Have you had breakfast yet?" "Not yet. Can I have it here?" "Of course you can, son." They had breakfast together again, and Michael realized how much he had missed these simple moments. The morning conversation, the strong coffee that only his mother knew how to make, the feeling of coziness that only that kitchen provided. "Mom, yesterday I didn't ask how you're doing health-wise. I'm fine, son, just the usual back pain." 40 years of carrying weight leaves some marks. Michael made a mental note to schedule a full medical checkup for his mother. How long had it been since she had tests? "Mom, how about we schedule a doctor's appointment, just to check how everything is?" "Michael, doctor's appointments are expensive. Mom, leave that to me. I want to make sure you're okay." Dorothy nodded, touched by her son's concern. "All right, son. If you think it's important." "I do. You're the most precious thing I have." After breakfast, Michael went to work with a different feeling. He felt more complete, more connected to his roots. Throughout the morning, he thought about how he could include his mother more in his life. In the afternoon, he received a call from Captain Thompson. "Colonel Johnson, I wanted to inform you that Officer Wilson asked to speak with me today. He wants to take courses on human rights and race relations. It seems yesterday's conversation had an impact." Michael smiled. "I'm glad to hear that, Captain. Sometimes people just need an opportunity to reflect." "I agree, and Colonel, I wanted to thank you for how you handled the situation. It could have been much worse if you had reacted with anger." Michael thought of his mother, of how she had asked them to leave without causing more trouble. Her wisdom always surprised him. "I learned from the best teacher I ever had, Captain." That evening, Michael returned to his mother's house for dinner. Dorothy had prepared his favorite dish, gumbo with collard greens. "Mom, how did you know I was coming for dinner?" "A mother's instinct," she smiled. "Besides, you said yesterday you wouldn't miss dinners anymore." Michael laughed. His mother had always been sharp. During dinner, Michael told her about the captain's call. Dorothy listened attentively. "It's good that the young man wants to learn. Everyone deserves a second chance." "That's what I thought too, Mom. You taught me that." "Michael, can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Mom." "Have you ever been in similar situations, seeing people being discriminated against?" Michael thought for a moment. The truth was, yes, he had witnessed similar situations, but he hadn't always intervened as he should have. "Yes, Mom, and I confess I didn't always act as I should have. Sometimes it's easier to pretend you didn't see." "And now?" "Now I know I can't do that anymore, not after seeing what you went through yesterday." Dorothy nodded. "Son, I didn't go through that yesterday for you to feel guilty. I've been through that my whole life. What changed is that now you're here to defend me. And I always will be, Mom." After dinner, they sat in the small living room to watch television. Michael noticed how old the furniture was, how small the television was. Why had he never offered help before? "Mom, how about we trade this television for a bigger one?" "Michael, the television works fine." "I know it works, Mom, but I want you to have nice things. You deserve them." Dorothy looked at her son affectionately. "Son, I don't need expensive things to be happy. I need you here with me. Then you'll have both, me here and nice things too." They laughed together, and Michael felt how good it was to be there. In the following days, Michael began to establish a new routine. Every day he stopped by his mother's house before work for breakfast. 3 times a week he had dinner there. And on Sundays, he started having lunch at home again, like he used to. Dorothy flourished with her son's constant presence. She had more energy, smiled more, seemed younger. The neighbors commented on how radiant she looked. "Miss Dorothy, you look different," said Mrs. Jenkins, the next-door neighbor. "Happier." "It's because my son came back home, Mary. Not physically, but he came back." "That's wonderful, Miss Dorothy. You deserve all the happiness in the world." 1 week after the incident at the market, the day of the military academy ceremony arrived. Michael came to pick up his mother early in the morning. Dorothy was dressed in her best outfit, a simple but elegant navy blue dress that she saved for special occasions. She had made sure to go to the salon to get her hair done. "You look beautiful, Mom." "Thank you, son. I'm a little nervous." "Why?" "I'm going to meet your colleagues, your superiors. What if they don't like me?" Michael held his mother's hands. "Mom, if they don't like you, that's their problem. But I'm sure they'll adore you. How could anyone not like the woman who raised a man like me? Dorothy laughed, and Michael saw her confidence grow. The military academy was impeccable for the ceremony. Michael introduced his mother to several colleagues and superiors. To his delight, everyone was extremely respectful and kind to Dorothy. "Colonel Johnson, your mother must be very proud of you," said General Williams. "Actually, General, I'm the one who's proud of her. Everything I am, I owe to this extraordinary woman." Dorothy smiled discreetly, but Michael could see the sparkle of happiness in her eyes. During the ceremony, when Michael was called to receive the medal, he asked his mother to stand by his side. "Colonel Johnson, this medal is in recognition of your years of exemplary service to the nation and your qualities as an officer and as a man." Michael received the medal and turned to his mother. "Mom, this medal is ours, because everything I've achieved is thanks to the values you taught me." Dorothy had tears in her eyes, but they were tears of pure happiness. All the years of sacrifice, all the difficulties, everything had been worth it at that moment. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Michael didn't leave his mother alone for a minute, introducing her to everyone as the most important woman in my life. "Michael," said Colonel Davis, one of his closest colleagues, "your mother is a charming lady. She must have been a wonderful mother." "She was and still is," replied Michael, looking at Dorothy affectionately. On the way back home, Dorothy was radiant. "Michael, it was the happiest day of my life." "Why, Mom?" "Because I saw how respected you are, how loved by your colleagues, and because you weren't ashamed to introduce me to anyone." "Mom, how could I be ashamed of you? You are my greatest achievement." "Michael, you are my greatest achievement." They hugged in the car, and Michael realized he was finally living the life he had always dreamed of, a life of professional success, but without forgetting where he came from and who brought him there. In the following weeks, Michael and Dorothy became inseparable again. He began taking her to places she had never been, fancy restaurants, theaters, museums. "Michael, this is all too fancy for me," she always said. "Mum, you deserve to experience all the good things life has to offer." And Dorothy, little by little, got used to it. She discovered she enjoyed theater, loved art museums, and felt comfortable in fancy restaurants when she was with her son. One day, while having lunch at a downtown restaurant, Dorothy made an observation that deeply touched Michael. "Son, do you know what makes me happiest in all of this?" "What, Mum?" "It's not the fancy place or the expensive food. It's being with you, talking, laughing. It's seeing that you haven't changed inside, that you're still my little boy." Michael felt a lump in his throat. "Mom, I'll always be your little boy, no matter how many medals I win or what position I hold." "I know, son, and that's why I'm so proud of you." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. 3 months after the incident at the market, Michael received an unexpected call. It was Kevin, the young police officer. "Colonel Johnson, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from Captain Thompson." "I don't mind, Kevin. How are you?" "Fine, sir. Actually, I wanted to share some news with you. I finished the Human Rights and Race Relations course. And what's more, I was chosen to be an instructor for new police officers on proper conduct." Michael smiled. "That's wonderful news, Kevin. Congratulations." "Colonel, I wanted to thank you. That day changed my life. It made me realize what kind of police officer I wanted to be." "Kevin, you made the changes. I just offered a different perspective." "May I ask a question, Colonel?" "Of course." "How is your mother? I still think about that day and I regret it deeply." Michael thought of Dorothy, who at that moment was at home preparing Sunday lunch. "She's fine, Kevin, and I'm sure she'd be happy to know that you learned and grew from that experience." "Colonel, would it be possible for me to apologize to her in person? I know you told me to do that by being a better police officer, and I'm trying, but I feel I need to apologize for real." Michael considered the request. He knew his mother well enough to know she would appreciate the gesture. "Kevin, let me talk to her first. If she agrees, I'll call you." "Thank you, Colonel. It means a lot to me." That night during dinner, Michael told his mother about Kevin's call. He wants to apologize in person, Mom, but only if you feel comfortable. Dorothy thought for a moment. Michael, remember what you told me about everyone deserving a second chance? I do. Then yes, I accept his apology. In fact, I'm glad to hear he's changed. Are you sure, Mom? Yes, son. If that bad moment served to make him a better person, then it was worth it. Michael once again admired his mother's wisdom and generosity. 2 days later, Kevin visited Dorothy's house. Michael was present but let them talk. Miss Dorothy, I came here to apologize for what happened at the market. I have no excuse for my behavior. It was wrong, it was disrespectful, and it didn't reflect the police officer I want to be. Dorothy looked at the young man. She could see sincerity in his eyes. Kevin, I accept your apology, and I'm glad to know you learned from what happened. Ma'am, I want you to know that I'm working to be a better police officer. I'm teaching other officers about how to treat all people with respect and dignity. That makes me very happy, Kevin. What matters most is that you grew as a person. Kevin turned to Michael. Colonel, your mother is a very special lady. You're lucky. I know that, Kevin, and she knows she's special now, too. Dorothy smiled, feeling valued and respected in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. After Kevin left, Michael and Dorothy talked about the visit. Mom, how did you feel? Good, son. It was brave of him to come here. It shows he really has changed. You're amazing, Mom. Your ability to forgive, to see the good in people. Michael, life is too short to hold grudges. And besides, if that difficult moment brought you back home, then it was all worth it. Michael hugged his mother, once again impressed by her wisdom. 6 months after the incident at the market, Michael and Dorothy's life had completely transformed. They talked every day, spent time together regularly, and Michael had become a much more present and caring son. Dorothy's house had been renovated, with new paint, new furniture, and all necessary repairs, but she made sure to keep the simple charm it always had. Michael, I don't want it to become too fancy. I want it to remain a welcoming home. Of course, Mom, you're the boss. One day, Michael came home with a special proposal. Mom, how about we take a trip together? A trip? Where to? To Louisiana. I want to see the place where you were born, where you spent your childhood. Dorothy was moved. For years, she had dreamed of returning to the small town in rural Louisiana where she was born. Michael, it would be wonderful, but it's been so long. People must have changed a lot. It doesn't matter, Mom. I want to know your roots, our roots. The trip to Louisiana was scheduled for the following month. Dorothy was both anxious and excited. Michael, I think your grandmother would be happy to know you became a colonel. Do you think she would be proud? I'm sure, son. She always said you would be an important man. How could she know? I was just a baby when she passed. Grandma's instinct. Dorothy smiled, just like a mother's instinct. In the week of the trip, Michael received a call from Captain Thompson with surprising news. Colonel Johnson, Kevin has been promoted. He's now a sergeant, and more. He was chosen as the best instructor of the year in human rights. That's fantastic news, Captain. I'm very happy. Colonel, that situation at the market ended up bringing very positive changes here at the station. Kevin has become a reference for other officers. Michael shared the news with his mother, who was overjoyed. See, son, sometimes bad things happen to bring about good things. You always see the positive side of things, Mom. I've learned it's the only way to live without bitterness. On the day of the trip to Louisiana, Michael and Dorothy were as excited as children. It was the first trip they had taken together since Michael was little. During the flight, Dorothy told childhood stories that Michael had never heard before. Son, I used to play school under the shade of a mango tree. I pretended to be a teacher and taught other children. I never imagined my son would become such an educated man. Mom, you are the most important teacher I've ever had. When they arrived at the small town where Dorothy was born, she was emotional. Many things had changed, but the essence of the place remained the same. Michael, that was the house where I lived with your grandmother. She pointed to a simple little house. They walked along the dirt roads, visited the church where Dorothy was baptized, the school where she studied up to the 4th grade. Mum, why did you leave here? Because I wanted a better future for you, son. There were no opportunities here. I had to go to the big city. Michael understood once again the extent of the sacrifices his mother had made for him. "Mum, you left everything behind for my sake, and I would do it 1,000 times over, Michael. Seeing where you've reached is worth any sacrifice." They spent 3 days in Louisiana, visiting distant relatives, getting to know important places in the family's history. Michael was able to better understand where he came from and why his mother was the strong woman he knew. On the last day of the trip, they were sitting in the town's central square when Dorothy made an important reflection. "Michael, do you know what I've learned from everything that happened in the last few months?" "What, Mum?" "That it's never too late to fix mistakes. That pride can push away the people we love the most, and that love always finds a way to bring people together again." "I learned the same thing, Mom, and I learned that success without family isn't real success." "Michael, promise me something." "Anything, Mom. Promise that we will never let pride come between us again." "I promise, Mom. Never again." They hugged in the square under the hot Louisiana sun, two hearts that had reunited after nearly being lost. On the flight back, Michael was thoughtful. "Mom, I have a proposal." "Tell me, son." "How about you move to an apartment near mine? That way we can see each other more easily." Dorothy considered the proposal. "Michael, I love my little house, but I confess it would be nice to be closer to you." "You don't have to sell the house, Mom. You can rent it out to someone. And if you don't adjust to the apartment, you can always go back." "All right, son, let's try." A month later, Dorothy was settled in an apartment 2 blocks from Michael's building. It was a simple apartment, but comfortable and well located. "Michael, I like it here. I can see you every day and still keep my independence." "Perfect, Mom. The best of both worlds." The new proximity allowed them to become even closer. Michael had lunch with his mother almost every day. She helped organize his apartment, and on weekends they cooked together. "Son, I feel useful again," Dorothy said one day. "I felt like I was being forgotten in the world." "Mum, you were never forgotten. I was the one who was foolish to distance myself. What matters is that we found our way back to each other." 1 year after the incident at the fair, Michael was promoted to general. This time Dorothy was present at the ceremony from the very beginning. "General Johnson," the commander said during the ceremony, "you are an example of how to combine professional excellence with strong family values." Michael looked at his mother, who was in the front row with the proudest smile he had ever seen. "Commander, everything I am I owe to the woman there in the front row, my mother, Dorothy Johnson." The audience applauded and Dorothy waved discreetly, radiant with happiness. After the ceremony, there was a large reception. Michael made sure to introduce his mother to everyone present, including generals, politicians, and other important personalities. "General Johnson, your mother is a charming lady," the state governor said. "Thank you, Governor. She is my greatest inspiration." In the evening when they returned home, Dorothy was exhausted but happy. "Michael, today was the most special day of my life." "Why, Mum?" "Because I finally feel like I'm truly part of your life, not just your mother at home, but your mother everywhere." Michael hugged his mother tightly. "Mum, you've always been part of my life. I just didn't know how to show it properly. You're showing it now, son, and that's what matters." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. 2 years after the incident at the fair, Michael and Dorothy had become an example of a mother-son relationship. Other officers often asked Michael for advice on how to balance career and family. "General, how do you manage to be so close to your mother and still maintain such a successful career?" Colonel Roberts asked during a coffee break. "Roberts, I realize that a career only makes sense when we have important people to share the successes with. My mother doesn't hinder my career, she enriches it." "How so, General?" "She keeps me connected to my essence, to my values. She reminds me of where I came from and why I fight. That makes me a better leader." Colonel Roberts became thoughtful. "That makes sense, General. Maybe I should call my parents more." "You should, Roberts, while there's still time." Michael knew how important that phrase was. He didn't know how much time he still had with his mother, and he wanted to cherish every moment. Dorothy at 64 was more active and happier than she had been in years. She joined a senior group, did water aerobics, and even went back to school, taking adult education classes to finish high school. "Michael, I want to finish my studies," she announced one day. "Mum, what for? You don't need to prove anything to anyone." "It's not to prove anything, son. It's to fulfill an old dream. I always wanted to finish high school." Michael fully supported his mother's decision and even helped with her studies when she had difficulties. "Son, do you have the patience to explain this subject to me again?" "I have all the patience in the world, Mum." "How many times did you have the patience to teach me things when I was a child?" Michael's dedication to his mother's studies deeply touched Dorothy. She saw in him the same boy she had taught to read and write at the kitchen table. When Dorothy completed her adult education program, Michael made sure to be present at the graduation. "Mom, I'm prouder today than on the day of my promotion to general." "Why, son?" "Because you taught me it's never too late to chase your dreams." The graduation ceremony was simple, but for Dorothy, it represented a tremendous achievement. At 64 years old, she had finished high school. "Michael, now I understand why you enjoy studying so much. The feeling of learning new things is wonderful." "Mom, you always knew that. You just never had the opportunity to experience it." Michael was beginning to understand that his mother had potential for much more than life had allowed her to explore. "Mom, how about going to college?" "Michael, at my age?" "Mom, you just proved that age isn't an obstacle for anything." Dorothy considered the idea. She had always dreamed of being a teacher when she was a child. "Son, would it be possible for me to study education?" "Of course it would be, Mom. I'll help with everything you need." The idea of returning to studies made Dorothy excited in a way Michael hadn't seen in years. She started researching colleges, looking into entrance exams for senior citizens. "Michael, I discovered there's a special program for people over 60. No entrance exam required." "Perfect, Mom. When are the applications?" "Next month. But I'm nervous. What if I can't keep up with the young people?" "Mom, you have something they don't have. Life experience. That's worth more than anything." Michael helped his mother with the entire application process. When the results came out and she was accepted, they celebrated as if it were the greatest achievement in the world. "Mom, in 4 years you'll be teacher Dorothy Johnson." "If I make it, son." "You will make it, Mom. I'm sure." The start of college was challenging for Dorothy. She was one of the oldest in her class, and at first she felt out of place, but gradually she adapted and discovered she had much to contribute. "Michael, the young people in my class love talking with me. They say I have interesting experiences to share." "Of course you do, Mom. You've lived a lot, learned a lot. And they help me with technology. It's a really good exchange." Michael was happy seeing his mother flourish in the academic environment. She did homework with the dedication of a young student, participated in study groups, and even made new friends. "Son, I scheduled to study with Jennifer and Tiffany this afternoon. They're coming here to the house." "That's great, Mom. You're enjoying college." "Very much, Michael. I feel young again." During her first year of college, Dorothy faced some challenges. Some subjects were difficult, and she sometimes doubted her ability. "Michael, I think I'm too old for this. I can't understand statistics." "Mom, remember when I struggled with math and you sat with me every night until I understood?" "I remember. Now it's my turn to sit with you until you understand. Let's study together." And so they did. Michael helped his mother with the more difficult subjects, just as she had done with him throughout his childhood and adolescence. "Son, are you sure you don't mind spending your time helping me?" "Mom, it's not spending time. It's investing time in the most important person in my life." Michael's dedication to his mother's studies even drew attention at the barracks. Some colleagues commented on how admirable it was to see a general helping his mother with homework. "General Johnson, I heard your mother is attending college," said General Miller. "Yes, sir. She's in her first year of education studies." "And do you help her with her studies?" "Yes, I do, General. It's the least I can do for someone who dedicated her whole life to my education." Admirable, Johnson. An example for all of us. Michael felt proud not only of his own achievements, but especially of his mother's. Seeing a 64-year-old woman facing the challenges of college with courage and determination inspired him every day. At the end of the first year, Dorothy passed all her subjects with excellent grades. "Michael, I did it. I passed the year." "I knew you could do it, Mom. Congratulations." "Now, there are just 3 more years to go. And I'll be here to help you through all of them." The second year of college brought new challenges, but also new joys. Dorothy was chosen by her classmates as class representative, a recognition of her natural leadership and life experience. "Michael, the kids elected me class representative." "That's wonderful, Mom. They recognized your leadership skills." "But I'm nervous. I've never been a representative of anything." "Mom, you raised a general all by yourself. I'm sure you'll be an excellent representative." And she was indeed. Dorothy stood out as a representative, always mediating conflicts between students and teachers, organizing class events, and creating a more harmonious environment in the classroom. "Mrs. Johnson," one of the teachers said to Michael during a casual meeting, "your mother is one of the most dedicated students I've ever had, and one of the wisest too." "Teacher, she's always been wise. She's just now getting the chance to show it. You must be very proud of her." "I'm very proud, teacher, more than she realizes." During the third year, Dorothy started doing internships at schools. Michael would pick her up every day after the internship, eager to hear how her day had been. "How was it today, Mum?" "Wonderful, son. I worked with a first-grade class. The children are so affectionate." "You've always had a way with children." "That's true. I remember when you were little and brought your friends home. I loved taking care of everyone." Michael smiled, remembering those times. His mother had always been maternal, not only with him, but with all the children who came to the house. "Mom, I think you were born to be a teacher." "Maybe, son. I just needed time to figure it out." The teachers at the school where Dorothy interned were impressed by her dedication and competence. "Miss Dorothy, you have a natural gift for teaching," said the educational coordinator. "Thank you. I'm learning a lot here." "Actually, we're the ones learning from you. Your life experience greatly enriches our work." Dorothy felt fulfilled in a way she had never experienced before. She was finally doing something she truly loved, and that made a difference in other people's lives. "Michael, today a child told me she wanted me to be her teacher forever. I almost cried." "Mum, you were born for this, I'm sure." "Son, thank you for encouraging me to go back to school. It was the best gift you could have given me." "Mom, seeing you fulfilled is the best gift you can give me." In the fourth and final year of college, Dorothy was more confident and determined than ever. Her final project was about adult education, inspired by her own experience. "Michael, my advisor said my project could become a scientific article." "How proud, Mom. You're contributing to the country's education." "I never imagined I'd get this far, son." "I always knew you would, Mom. I was just waiting for the right opportunity." Dorothy's graduation was one of the most emotional days in Michael's life. Seeing his mother, at 68 years old, graduating with a degree in education, was proof that it's never too late to fulfill dreams. "Michael, I did it. I'm a teacher now. Mom, I'm prouder today than of any promotion I've ever received." "Son, none of this would be possible without your support. Thank you for believing in me." "Mom, thank you for teaching me that determination and courage have no age limit." After graduation, Dorothy was invited to teach at the same school where she had done her internship. She accepted immediately. "Michael, I'm starting on Monday. I'm nervous and excited at the same time. Mom, those kids are lucky to have you as their teacher. I hope I can make a difference in their lives, just like you did in mine." "You will, Mom. I'm sure of it." Dorothy's first day as a teacher was emotional. Michael made sure to drive her to school and pick her up at the end of the day. "How was it, Teacher Dorothy?" "Wonderful, son. The children welcomed me with so much affection. I think I'm going to be very happy here." "Of course you will, Mom. You were born for this." Dorothy quickly became one of the most beloved teachers at the school. Her life experience, combined with her passion for teaching, created a special atmosphere in the classroom. "Teacher Dorothy," said one of the children, "you're the coolest teacher in the world." "Why, sweetheart? Because you tell real stories and give the best hugs." Dorothy smiled, remembering all the hugs she had given Michael when he was a child. Now she was sharing that affection with other children. "Michael," she told her son that evening, "a child told me today that I give the best hugs. And you do, Mom. I've known that since I was little. Son, I feel complete for the first time in my life. I have you. I have a profession I love. I have my health. What more could I ask for?" "Nothing, Mom. You deserve all this happiness." 5 years after the incident at the fair, Michael and Dorothy had built a relationship stronger and deeper than they ever imagined possible. What had started as a moment of humiliation had turned into an opportunity for them to reconnect and build a richer and more meaningful life together. "Son," Dorothy said one day while they were preparing dinner together, "if someone had told me 5 years ago that I'd have a degree in education, be teaching, and that you'd be here cooking with me, I'd have said they were crazy." "Yeah, Mom. Life has those surprises." "Michael, have you ever thought that if that officer hadn't humiliated me that day, maybe we'd still be apart?" Michael stopped chopping the vegetables and looked at his mother. "I've thought about that, Mom. Sometimes bad things happen to teach us something important." "And what do you think we learned?" "I learned that success without family is worthless. I learned that pride can destroy the most important relationships. And I learned that it's never too late to change and grow. I learned that I have much more potential than I imagined. I learned that dreams have no age limit. And I learned that my son is even more special than I thought." They hugged in the kitchen, two hearts that had been lost and found each other again, two dreamers who discovered that together they could achieve much more than apart. "Mom," said Michael, "thank you for never giving up on me." "Son," Dorothy replied, "thank you for coming back home." Michael smiled. "I didn't come back home, Mom. I discovered that home is where you are. And you discovered that at the right time, son. At the time when I needed it most." "And I discovered it at the time when I needed it most too, Mum." They continued cooking together, talking about plans for the future. Dorothy wanted to pursue a master's degree. Michael was thinking about writing a book on leadership and family values. "Michael, if you write that book, can I help? I have some ideas about how family and work can complement each other." "Of course you can, Mom. It would be an honor to write a book with you. Just imagine. General Michael Johnson and Teacher Dorothy Johnson authors." Michael laughed. "It would be the most honest book about family and career ever written." "Why?" "Because it would be written by two people who almost lost each other because of pride, but learned to balance professional success with family love." Dorothy nodded. "That's true, son. Our story could help other families avoid making the same mistakes we did, or to fix the mistakes they've already made, like we did." That evening, after dinner, they sat in the living room to watch television, as they did every night when Michael didn't have military commitments. "Michael," Dorothy said during a commercial, "can I ask you a question?" "Of course, Mom." "Are you happy?" Michael thought for a moment. "Mum, I'm happier today than I've ever been in my entire life." "Why?" "Because I have a career that fulfills me, but I also have a family that completes me. Because I've learned that true success is having someone to share victories with and to support us in defeats. I'm also happier today than I've ever been, son. Even after going through so much hardship in life, especially because of that, the hardships made me stronger, wiser, and they made me appreciate the good moments more." Michael looked at his mother and saw not just the woman who raised him, but a friend, a companion, an endless source of wisdom and love. "Mom, you are the most extraordinary person I know." "Michael, you tell me that every day. No need to exaggerate." "It's not an exaggeration, Mom, it's true. How many people do you know who at 68 went back to school, graduated from college, and started a new career? When you put it like that, it does sound special." "It is special, Mom. And not just for that, but for everything you represent. Courage, determination, love, generosity." Dorothy was moved by her son's words. "Michael, you know that everything I did in life was with you in mind, right?" "I know, Mom. But now I want you to do things thinking about yourself too." "I am, son. I'm loving being a teacher. And I'm loving seeing you fulfilled." They sat in silence for a few minutes, just enjoying each other's company. Dorothy thought about how life had changed. Michael thought about how he almost lost the most important person because of silly pride. "Michael," Dorothy finally said. "Yes, Mom. Promise me we'll do everything differently if we ever have another disagreement. I promise, Mom, I promise I'll never let pride speak louder than love again. And I promise I'll never hold grudges or fail to express what I feel." "Agreed, Mom. Agreed, son." They sealed the agreement with a hug, knowing they had learned valuable lessons that would stay with them for the rest of their lives. End of story. Tell us what you thought of this moving story and where you're following us from. If something touched your heart, leave your sincere words in the comments. Do you believe that pride can really push away the people we love the most? We'd love to hear your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other stories that touch the soul.